and select Shopper's Guide to browse hundreds of businesses featured on the show. Place your order online and we'll have it shipped right to your front door. With so many possibilities, it's hard not to shop.
The Klondike Casino is a friendly local spot that features their signature restaurant, the Klondike Grill, serving up fresh food fast. Open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner just off the 95 freeway on Sunset Road in Henderson. You will find the Klondike Casino, featuring all your favorite games from the Strip in the comfort of a neighborhood casino. You can place a bet at their full-service sports book, or start your day with a breakfast plate that comes with your choice of potato and toast. Or check us out for lunch or dinner and try one of our many sandwiches, like the popular beer-battered fish sandwich or the Philly cheesesteak. Check out the full menu at KlondikeSunset.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for the host with no filter and the millennial who keeps him in check. Get ready for the stories that matter to you. It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro and Jamie D.
What's up, everybody? Happy Hump Day.
Hump
yes,
Day.
It is Wednesday, and it is finally sunny here in the Valley. So glad that you can join us. And we got a big show lined up for you today. Of course, new information, the Trump arrest, indictment, whatever you want to call it, how Republicans are reacting, how Democrats are reacting, a little bit of history on the man that it seems like every Republican is going after, Mr. Bragg. I'm going to give you a little history on him, and we'll be talking about that. Hour number 2 is going to get really interesting. Not that hour number 1 is not interesting, but we got a guy coming in studio. He likes to call himself the last of the dinosaurs. The government, of course, accusing him of organized crime back in the day. He is in the black book. Can't gamble in any casino. Can't go in any casino. He's in the black book. And if anybody knows the name Frank Citro, you know what I'm talking about. Frank Citro. I feel like I'm going to be in a scene from the movie Sopranos when interviewing him, but Frank Citro is going to be joining us in hour number 2. Oh, I know Frank has some opinions on the Sopranos as well. He told me Joe Pesci lived with him for a little bit before they filmed Casino. He's got some Martin Scorsese stories. Oh, this guy's got stories. It's going to be really interesting. So Frank Citro will be joining us in hour number 2. Let's talk a little bit about how Republicans and Democrats are reacting to this Trump indictment and what took place yesterday. And listen, folks, it's pretty simple, right? If you're a right-winger, if you're a Republican, and if you're a MAGA, the normal people who wear the Donald Trump knee pads are defending Donald Trump. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene's appearance yesterday with her little protest lasted about 10 minutes, and then she left. She got her little photo op, because that's all it was, and then she left. There weren't a lot of people out there that were known people that were defending Donald Trump. I'll say that. We'll get to his speech at Mar-a-Lago yesterday.
Why you say it like that?
That's how he says it. The normal buffoons defending Donald Trump, like J.D. Vance tweeting that Bragg's entire career is about normalizing violent crime. By the way, that's a lie. Bragg did not normalize violent crime. For low crime offenders, Bragg did what he could to not want them to be in the jail system. He wasn't getting murderers and extremely serious criminals out of jail. That's a lie. Vance is lying. He said just crazy that he's bringing this weak case in the middle of the presidential election. First of all, weak case according to who? Because there's a lot of Rhodes Scholars and people who have been in the courts for a very long time that are saying that this is not a weak case. Now, there are some that are saying it's a weak case, and usually those are the people that are paid by Fox News. But, according to J.D. Vance, he says it's a weak case because he's worn the Donald Trump knee pad since the beginning. The Ohio senator, who was once a Trump critic, has now embraced Donald Trump and already endorsed him in the 2024 presidential race. Tim Scott of South Carolina, who's weighing a 2024 presidential run himself, slammed Bragg ahead of the indictment, saying that he doesn't prosecute criminals, yet weaponizes the law against his political enemies. Senate Minority John Thune aligned himself with the GOP lawmakers who called Bragg's case politically motivated. He said this indictment looks like a political agenda run amok. And when we look at the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, he said that he'll have a call with McCarthy and Jordan this week to discuss how to move forward with their investigation of Bragg. I find that to be quite hilarious as well. So, listen, there's a lot here to dissect in the way Republicans are responding here, the way Democrats are responding. But I'll say this because I want to give a little bit of background on this guy Bragg that so many of these Retrumplicans seem to be going after. And I'll start by saying this. Bragg is a Harvard-educated attorney. Let me repeat that. Harvard. He previously served as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. He worked as a civil rights lawyer and as a professor and co-director of the New York Law School Racial Justice Project, where he represented family members of Eric Garner. Do we remember the Eric Garner story? Mm-hmm. Who died back in 2014 after being placed in an unauthorized chokehold by then police officer in a lawsuit against the city of New York seeking information. Eric Garner was murdered. Now, yes, I wish Eric Garner complied, but he was put in a chokehold and he was killed for what? For selling cigarettes? I mean, give me a break.
That was ridiculous.
This guy, Bragg, is extremely educated. An Harvard-educated attorney, and he has aggressively pursued Trump and other progressive priorities so far in his tenure, including not prosecuting some low-level crimes and finding alternatives to incarceration. I don't see anything wrong with that. But the people on the far right are making the claim that Bragg wants to release all these murderers in New York City, and it's a lie. Mm-hmm. I know that'll shock some people, but many on the far right are lying. Bragg is not wanting to release violent criminals. That is a lie being put forth by people on the right who are not only attacking Bragg, but attacking the judge presiding in this case, and we'll get to that. He said that he has helped sue the Trump administration more than 100 times, as well as led a team that sued the Donald J. Trump Foundation, which resulted in the former president paying $2 million to a number of charities and the foundation's dissolution. Bragg also led the suit against disgraced film producer Harvey Weinstein and his company, which alleged a hostile work environment. I don't think anybody would see anything wrong with that.
Right.
Bragg emerged the winner of a very crowded Democratic primary in the summer of 2021 to lead the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, for which Vance had announced earlier that year he would not seek re-election. And those people out there on the right that are saying that George Soros, backed by George Soros in a recent interview said he didn't even know who this guy Bragg was. He said he was happy that a Democrat won because George Soros is a Democrat. He said he didn't even know who Bragg was. But Republicans out there will lead you to believe that this is a George Soros-backed DA and he only did this so they can get to Trump. There's no evidence to prove that. It's another conspiracy theory being put forth by the right. Bragg ran as a reformer, releasing a memo just days after taking office detailing new charging, bail, plea, and sentencing policies, a plan that drew criticism from police union leaders, to be fair. He said his office would not prosecute marijuana misdemeanors. Why would you disagree with that? Marijuana is basically legal almost everywhere in the country now. Do we want people who sell marijuana be put in jail? But yet Republicans will lead you to believe that Bragg is the guy that's releasing all these terrorists. Yep. By the way, last I checked, the person who released 5,000 Taliban terrorists, guess what? It wasn't Bragg. It wasn't Joe Biden. Jamie, who do you think it was?
Trump.
Ding, 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 ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, Donald. They're arguing that Bragg released all these marijuana misdemeanors. Oh no, the sky is falling. But yet it was Donald Trump that released 5,000 Taliban terrorists.
Yep.
But they don't have a problem with that. But God forbid if Bragg released some marijuana offenders back in the day. Oh boy, the sky is falling.
Brian, as a journalist, because even though we're radio personalities, we're still considered journalists.
No, I'm not.
You're not? You don't consider yourself a journalist?
I think if you're I used to be. If you're a talk show host, if you're an opinionated talk show host, I don't consider myself a journalist. I used to be. If you're a reporter, you are.
Wait, but even though because you still have to report on the facts before you give your opinions, correct?
If you're a talk show host, in my opinion, you're not a journalist.
Okay.
Doesn't matter whether you're Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity or.
Okay, that's fine.
I think
because they consider themselves journalists and they're talk show hosts.
Well, then they're clowns. Because if you're an opinionated member of the media and you do a show, that's not a journalist. A journalist is somebody that just reports on the facts. It could be somebody, a reporter, outside of Mar-a-Lago or outside of the Trump Tower. If you're a reporter and you're going to these press conferences and asking questions, I consider that a journalist.
So what about the people who say they're sports journalists and they have a talk show? They give their opinions.
I think most people that do sports talk shows would not consider themselves journalists.
I've
That's
heard
not what
several people. But
Well,
that's
that's
not the
wrong.
point, though. The point that I want to get to is, regardless if you think we're journalists or not, we still report on the facts, correct? And all these people like Mark Levin, would you consider him he's a politician, of course, but
No, Mark Levin's not a politician.
What would you consider
Mark
him?
Levin is a talk show host. He's
Right.
never been a politician.
So that's a thing, though. He considers himself that and a journalist. So I'm trying to figure out this. Whether you're a politician or you're a journalist or you're a talk show host, would you consider all three people to still have to report on the facts? Yes or no?
Well, I would hope that people don't make things up, if that's what you're asking me.
Exactly. But a lot of the things you're telling me are made up things. The things that you're telling me about right now.
Welcome to the Republican Party.
Now, but I want to understand, though, the Republican Party has several people who call themselves politicians and journalists. When you look at Mark Levin, when they call him the great one and the great politician.
Mark Levin has never been a politician.
But why do they call him that, though?
Who's calling Mark Levin
I'm
a politician?
seeing in all the different reports where they're just calling him a politician, and they're saying
Mark
that
Levin has never run for office. He's never been a politician. That doesn't make any sense.
So why do
at
they
all.
say that he speaks for the right?
Okay, well, that doesn't mean he's a politician.
Okay,
he's
so
a radio talk show host.
Right.
Mark Levin is a part of, as I would like to call, right-wing echo chamber radio. He wears the Donald Trump knee pads.
And what does the echo chamber thing mean for you?
Well, exactly what it means. He just echoes the same right-wing talking points that a Sean Hannity
And that's exactly what I wanted you to get at.
But Mark Levin has never been a politician. He's not a journalist. He's a right-wing buffoon, is what he is.
That's what I wanted you to actually explain to the people who are listening, because a lot of these people think that the Mark Levin, not a lot, there's people who think that the Mark Levins in the world and different politicians are journalists or politicians in their own right, and they look at what they're saying as facts. And at one point, I want to know, when will people be held accountable for the things they say? You're sitting here saying that the Democrats to be held accountable.
Well, sometimes
for what
they are. I'll give you an example, and then we'll get back to what I was talking about.
When is Mark Levin being held accountable for what he said?
I'll get to that, and then we'll get to what I was referring to. But, for example, when Alex Jones goes on his show, and Alex Jones says that the Connecticut school shooting didn't happen, he was sued for that. Okay. There was accountability there.
Did he apologize?
I think he might have apologized to the families after he was found guilty. But the problem that I have is that it's okay to have an opinion. For example, if you say Donald Trump is the best president of all time, that's an opinion. I would obviously disagree with you, but you would give your opinions on what policies you liked, and I would probably disagree with you on that. But that's an opinion. When you go on the air and you say millions of people have died from the vaccine, or Donald Trump won the 2020 election, or the earth is flat, you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And there are a lot of people, particularly those on the right, that lie. For example, getting back to what I was talking about, when Bragg, had some, at least said that he didn't want to prosecute marijuana misdemeanors, Republicans are making it out that Bragg is releasing violent criminals. That is absolutely and positively not true. We have an issue in our jails today, overcrowded, and there are a lot of people in there for misdemeanors that shouldn't be in jail. No matter how many times they've committed that misdemeanor, they should not be in jail. Violent criminals, yes, but if you hear from people on the right going after Bragg, they make it sound like there is no rule of law, and he wants violent criminals to be, I guess you could say, given free rein, and it's just a lie. It's just not true. And I go back to some of these comments that some of these people are making, particularly Kevin McCarthy, who accused Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg of seeking to interfere in the election, which is absurd, and said Congress will hold him accountable. This isn't about interfering in an election. This is about holding someone to account if they broke the law. Donald Trump will have his day in court. He will have a defense. He has a defense. He will have his day in court, and if it turns out that he is not convicted on any of these charges, then yeah, it's going to make Mr. Bragg look really bad. But if he is convicted, which I believe he will be found guilty of at least one felony, then all said and done, Donald Trump will not be able to run for office again. But, Mitt Romney's statement here is very, very interesting, and I want to read it because I do have respect for Mitt Romney. Again, he was one who voted to impeach Donald Trump. He's obviously not a Donald Trump supporter. But what he said is very interesting here, so I want to read it verbatim because he called Bragg's overreach, saying it sets a dangerous precedent. He said, I believe President Trump's character and conduct make him unfit for office. Even so, I believe the New York prosecutor is stretched to reach felony criminal charges in order to fit a political agenda. No one is above the law, not even former presidents, but everyone is entitled to equal treatment under the law. The prosecutor's overreach sets a dangerous precedent for criminalizing political opponents and damaging the public's faith in our justice system. So I wonder if Mitt Romney would make that statement when it came to the Georgia Secretary of State story, which very well indictments could come down there. I wonder if you'd make that same statement when it comes to classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. You could make the argument, and I understand where Mitt Romney is coming from, that, listen, they're only doing this because he's Donald Trump. That very well may be possible. I respect Mitt Romney's opinion, and he may have a point. This could be politicizing, and this could be, weaponizing our justice system to just get Donald Trump, to get the orange turd. That could be very possible.
The Cheeto.
But, Mitt Romney is not a Trump supporter. So it's interesting that he makes these statements, and I think there are probably a lot of Republicans in this country that feel the same way that Mitt Romney feels, but yet Mitt Romney also says in the statement that he doesn't have the character or the conduct, and he's unfit for office, which obviously I think many Americans would also agree with. So I respect Mitt Romney's opinion on this. I would have rather them waited on this one, and I would have rather them gone after Trump on some of the other what I think are more serious charges that are going to be on the way. When it comes to the Secretary of State in Georgia, when it comes to the classified documents, the possible incitement of the January 6th insurrection, I do believe that those are more serious than this. But I want to play you a little bit of what Donald Trump had to say last night at Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago.
So, again, these are all of his Trumpy friends over there at Mar-a-Lago, and he had his little speech. I also keep in mind that the judge earlier in the day warned Donald Trump, warned both sides to not incite violence.
Yep. Or there'll be a gag order.
So remember I talked about George Soros, and Donald Trump brought up Soros and he brought up Bragg. Have a listen to what he had to say here.
Election interference at a scale never seen before in our country, beginning with the radical left, George Soros-backed prosecutor Alvin Bragg of New York, who campaigned on the fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is a guy campaigning. He wanted to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me, didn't know a thing about me. He was campaigning.
All right, so what? My response to that is, so what? That doesn't change the fact that you're facing 34 felony counts.
Exactly.
So what? And then Trump goes on, and he starts talking about how the case shouldn't have been brought from the beginning, and he says, everybody agrees with me. Listen to this lie.
As it turns out, virtually everybody that has looked at this case, including rhinos and even hardcore Democrats, say there is no crime and that it should never have been brought.
Well, yeah, maybe some people on Fox News are saying that. Maybe the people that brown nose you.
What liar said
it's... Well, he's lying. There's tons of people with tremendous law backgrounds that are saying that this case does have merit. So again, Donald Trump is lying. He's making a generalization that everybody agrees, rhinos and Democrats.
Who is everybody? The grand jury?
Well, he's
the people who matter?
He's lying. Donald Trump is lying. Everybody does not feel that way. Again, so many lies and generalization in his speech last night. And then he goes on to talk about Bragg. Have a listen to this. It gets worse.
He knew there was no case. That's why last week he delayed for a month and then immediately took that back and threw this ridiculous indictment together. Came out today, everybody said, this is not really an indictment. There's nothing here. My lawyers came to me and they said, there's nothing here. They're not even saying what you did. The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury information.
Again, not true. And as far as the indictment is concerned, it's pretty specific.
It's written in facts what you did.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. It seems to be pretty easy to read to me. So again, Donald Trump is lying. But here's where it gets really interesting because, as you know, Donald Trump has this picture on his little Truth Social, which, by the way, is going under. He's got this picture of him with a baseball bat, and then next to it is a picture of Bragg. Any reasonable person would say that's inciting violence.
It sure is.
Any reasonable person would say that's absurd, that's inciting violence.
You can speculate that he's looking to hit Alvin
Yes.
Bragg with a bat, which incites violence.
Of course. So yesterday, the judge addressed in respectful but stern fashion to both sides, to be fair, that the judge, and I'm paraphrasing here, will not tolerate any incitement of violence.
As he shouldn't.
And Donald Trump has the right to say, I'm innocent, these are false charges, I'm innocent, fine, go ahead. But once again, just about an hour or two after Donald Trump Jr. posted a picture of the judge's daughter on social media, Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago went after the judge. Have a listen to this.
Have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family whose daughter worked for Kamala Harris and now receives money from the Biden-Harris campaign, and a lot of it.
So what Donald Trump is doing there is the same thing he did. Remember when he went after the Mexican judge? He went after the Mexican judge, and the case couldn't be handled properly because the judge is from Mexican descent. By the way, that judge was born here in the United States of America. But this is what Donald Trump will do time and time again. He'll go after the judges. He'll go after the attorneys. He'll go after anybody that is going after him.
While making up stories in the process.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is a page from the Donald Trump playbook. It'll be interesting to see if the judge does anything about this.
How long can he be a pathological liar before others realize he's a pathological liar?
Well,
I just don't get it.
Well, it's pretty simple. It doesn't really matter how many times he lies.
Anything that deals with Trump feels like a huge trauma response.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I think what hit the nail right on the head, Jamie, is Heidi Heitkamp. She's a former congresswoman, and she was doing an interview on ABC. And she asked a very poignant question. And I raised this on social media yesterday. Where's Melania Trump? Have a listen to this.
Listen.
My initial reaction is Donald Trump is not a happy man. He never likes being in a room where he's not in charge. And so this is a tough day for him. My second thing is, where's Melania? I mean, when you look at this, you can do all the legal analysis, but Donald Trump knows that he's on a huge stage today. Everyone's watching. And behind all of this boring kind of business falsification argument is allegations of sexual liaisons.
Yes, that's right. There is an open rape case involving Donald Trump in the civil courts, but she raises a very interesting question, and I'll ask this to all of you. Where's Melania Trump?
Nowhere to be seen.
I mean, this is still her husband, right? I mean, it doesn't appear.
Would you want to be next to him?
Doesn't appear. Well, she's still married to him.
I don't care how married you are. You're going to a court to talk about why you cheated on me and if it's true or not.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Melania Trump married Donald Trump for his lavishly good looks. I'm sure it had to do.
I love
with,
your satire.
I'm sure it had. I'm sure it had nothing to do with his money, and I'm sure it had everything to do with what a great person Donald Trump is and his looks. But with that being said,
you're not going to disrespect my image.
Most people in this country, wives that stick with their husbands, will stick with them through thick and thin, and it could even be a court case like this. Barron and Melania Trump were nowhere to be found.
I don't blame her.
Nowhere to be found, and I'm shocked they are still married at this point. But this case, while he's not, been charged with any felony counts, it's not a felony to cheat on your wife. It's not a felony to, for lack of a better term, raw dog a porn star. That's not against the law. But it has to be extremely embarrassing for Melania Trump. She knows what took place here. And I think it's very, very telling that she wasn't there at all yesterday. Marjorie Taylor Greene showed up for about 5 minutes. And then she was ran out of town, thank God.
Was booed out.
Yeah. George Santos, the compulsive liar, was there for about 5 minutes. And then he was railed out.
Yep.
And, it was just basically Trump's attorneys, and that was pretty much it. And Melania Trump, no family members, nobody anywhere to be found. I find that to be very, very telling. And again, they're going to hear the same statements and comments from Trump, from his attorneys. He's innocent. He did nothing wrong. The courts will decide that. Luckily, Donald Trump will not be deciding that. His attorneys won't be deciding it. The courts will. And we are going to find out more information and probably more evidence as this goes on. But I'm going to open up the phone lines now. I don't care whether you're a MAGA supporter or not. I want to know what you think about this case. What do you think about the last 24 hours that have passed here? What do you think about all these Republicans out there, like J.D. Vance and Tim Scott and Nancy Mace and John Thune and Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell? By the way, Mitch McConnell hasn't said anything about this. I find that interesting. Stefanik. What do you think about Stefanik? And House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, who said equal justice under the law unless you're a Republican running for president. Well, Mr. Jordan, if you can find me a Democrat that incited a January 6th insurrection, if you can find me a Democrat that broke campaign finance violations, if you can find me a Democrat that has done 5% of the damage to this country that Donald Trump has done, then please go ahead and indict them. The number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, maybe you think that this is all BS. Maybe you think that these charges against Donald Trump are all nonsense. Maybe you think that, this is all political. I want to hear from you, and I want to know. I want to know what your thoughts are, what has taken place historically in the last 24 hours, that a former president of the United States has been indicted. He had his first arraignment in court, and he was under arrest, and he was
fingerprinted
for a little while. He was under arrest. The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to call, 702-221-7283. And let's start off with Brian, who's first up. Hello, Brian.
What's up, Brian?
How you doing, sir? How everybody's doing today?
Good.
Good. Yourself?
Good.
I'm doing pretty good. I just want to add a little bit to the conversation. It's quite interesting. I was talking on these TikTok lives with a lot of people, sort of their, lawyers, TikTok lawyers. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Keep going.
And it's interesting that before they seen all the evidence, they just saw the counts. They swear up and down that he's innocent. And at this moment in history, I think this is very important for our country. As somebody who is a veteran, I really believe on the values of the justice system. I don't care if you're a political figure or if you're just a regular citizen. We have to hold people accountable.
Agreed.
So this notion that we should just let this go just because it's bad for the country, I do not believe that so.
Right.
This is letting everyone know, regardless of who you are, your political status in this country, you will be held accountable for the crimes that you commit. And basically, like what you said, if you can find somebody a Democrat who incited the January 6th insurrection, bring them forth, charge them.
Yeah.
But this deflection is the very, very, very most disgusting thing I've heard in this whole thing. It's always the constant deflect about this person's corrupt, that person's corrupt. We deal with the evidence and the facts that's in front of us.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. I don't think that anybody should be held above the law. At the end of the day, we are looking at the facts, and we're looking at a man who was the former president of the United States who had wrongdoings and now has to face the time for his issues.
And that's the sad part, that we've kind of ventured off into this territory. I like to say that, from the conservative side, I do know that probably I have conservative friends that want to move away from the Trump, but they're in an interesting place because they want to move away from him, but they still need his base. So they're honestly afraid to kind of speak out.
Well, I got to tell you,
at
this point, sir, if there are Republicans out there, and there are still plenty of them, that stand by Donald Trump, at this point, then they're despicable, in my opinion. They are despicable. If they wanted to do what's best for the Republican Party, I don't know if this is best for the country, but if they want to do what's best for the Republican Party, then support Ron DeSantis, because I believe Ron DeSantis has a much better chance of defeating Joe Biden than Donald Trump does. Thank you.
I can agree with that sentiment.
It's good to hear from you, sir. I appreciate the call. I got to get to some other callers, but thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks for calling in.
Good to hear from you, sir. Appreciate that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Ernie. Ernie is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Ernie. What's going on?
What's up, Ernie?
Hi, yeah. You know what? I hope they lock this guy up and throw the key away.
Yeah.
There's done so much to mess up this country, and they're still, the Republicans are still backing him up, I don't understand it. He should have been thrown in jail a long time ago.
Well, I think I hear you. Listen, I don't disagree with you, but I'll tell you it's very simple. As long as you have an R next to your name, Many in the Republican Party don't care what you do. Donald Trump can do no wrong, but let's talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. Let's investigate Hillary Clinton 8 times for Benghazi. Let's talk about the Biden crime family when they can't name one thing that Joe Biden has done that is against the law. You know, again, all the investigations into Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, 5 years
speculation.
5 years of hearing about the Hunter Biden laptop, and nothing has come out of it. Nothing, right?
Nothing. It's all hot, you know, bullshit, and they're trying to get somebody else to get the Democrats. But my God, you know, the Republicans, they're ruining this country, man. You know,
well, I don't disagree with you, Ernie, but I'll tell you what.
It's Trump, you know, Republican representative. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's
I'm going to tell you this, Ernie. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to tell you something. This is just the beginning.
Yep.
There is more to come when it comes to Donald Trump. There's going to be more indictments. There's going to be more felonies that he's going to be charged with. And there are going to be, this is the weakest of all the cases. I promise you this. This is going to be the weakest of all the cases to come. Mark my words.
Yeah, he's going to get caught on something.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie.
Thanks, Ernie.
Appreciate it, Ernie. Thank you for the call. 702-221-7283. It did sound like he had a frog in his throat, but I did like the voice. He sounded like a blues singer, like old school blues singer. I like that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Caesar. Caesar is next up on Pushing Limits. Hello, Caesar.
What's up, Caesar?
How you doing, Brian? Good afternoon, sir.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. I just got a question in regards to this whole due process thing. What's your opinion on due process?
I believe everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Everybody deserves their day in court. Donald Trump deserves his due process just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. Everything seemed to go according to plan yesterday in a courtroom. And like I said, you know, innocent until proven guilty. We can still have our opinions, right? For example, I believe O.J. Simpson is a double murderer. But he was found innocent in the court of law, even though he was found guilty, financially. Civilly. Correct. But we can still have our opinions, right? But do I think Donald Trump is guilty? Yes. We all know what happened in this Stormy Daniels situation. We all know how he tried to put it under the rug, and now he made payments to Michael Cohen, who went to jail. But he is still legally innocent until proven guilty.
I totally agree with that 100%, Brian. And I appreciate your total honesty on that matter. But I have a local case here in the city of Henderson, and I'm outside the municipal court, and I don't believe I was afforded due process because I was a former officer. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to go against judges that are biased, and a jury, well, of course, we do hold them to a higher standard because they are honorable. They take time out of their daily lives to hear our cases. But the issue is we must be afforded due process for this democratic system to work. That's what I believe wholeheartedly.
I certainly agree with you. On the other side of the coin, I think you would also agree with me that nobody should be above the law, and everybody should be held account. I'm sure you would agree with that as well.
1,000%, Brian. 100% I agree with you.
Yeah. And my question is, how can you still be a former president attacking our democracy, saying you won the election in a landslide, lying on a daily basis, and inciting violence? Example, if you put a picture up of you with a baseball bat and the DA right next to you on social media, that is inciting violence, and that should be a crime. And he is not held to account for that, and he should be, in my opinion.
I agree. I know there's a very dividing line when it comes to Donald Trump. He's a very political, a very high figure. And at the end of the day, I do believe that he should just get due process. Due process, a fair and impartial jury and judge. And wherever the law lands, that should be the verdict, correct?
I agree with you. He deserves due process, but he shouldn't be going after the judge. His son shouldn't be posting pictures of the judge's daughter. People need to stop going after Bragg and saying that this is only political. Here's a guy who graduated from Harvard Law School, who has more legal experience in his pinky than all these politicians have in their whole bodies. So while I agree with you, Donald Trump does deserve due process. The judge, the attorneys, the DA also deserve at least some level of respect. You can disagree with them, but the personal attacks to me are absurd, and they're coming from politicians and people in power, and that can't happen.
Well, I agree 100%, and like I said, I'm out here in the city of Henderson right now currently, and prosecutors, they're not always the nicest people. They do things that are not honorable and ethical. So that's what I'm saying. It's just very difficult at times when prosecutors have the ultimate say, because we held our government to a higher standard, and that's the way it should be. But they shouldn't lie. That's why Brady versus Maryland exists. That's why these issues exist, because the higher courts have to hold them accountable. And again, like I said, Donald Trump, he's a very high political figure, and just push them through process. That's it. Whatever, if it's left-leaning, right-leaning, whatever the case may be, I think he should be afforded due process, and prosecutors need to be strict and follow the law the way it should be done.
Hey, Caesar, this is Jamie D here. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I want to make sure, do you think that the grand jury is going to have bias against Donald Trump as it pertains to this trial?
Well, the grand jury, I'm not an expert in court testimony and all that good stuff, but it's my understanding that the grand jury, they only hear the prosecution side. They have no defense at that time. The defense comes at a later time.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, you're correct. But my thought process to you is that you said that you want this to be a due process. You want everybody to have an unbiased opinion, and you want the decision to come from a good heart, no matter who's involved. Just stick to the facts. But do you think there's anybody that's in this process who's doing this just to get at Trump versus actually trying to hold him accountable for what he's done?
Well, I think, first of all, there's a crime there to be investigated. 100%. Whatever way we want to think, if it's left or right, there is a crime there. So he has to be afforded due process. Now, Donald Trump is a very high figure. I don't think there's going to be a jury that has no opinion prior to Donald Trump. It's going to be very difficult, I believe, to prosecute this case and to get a conviction. But again, the judge plays a very high role in it. The jury has the final say. And again, he must be afforded due process. As an American, that's the way I feel about that.
And he will get due process, and he is getting due process. And I haven't seen anything that would beg to differ that. And if I did, I would certainly mention it here. But he is getting due process. He has his defense attorneys. He'll have his day in court to defend these charges, and we'll have to wait and see where the chips fall. Caesar, I do appreciate the phone call,
Caesar.
sir. Thank you very much.
Take care, fellas. Have a great day.
Thank you.
you.
You too. Number to call again if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. Agree or disagree? MAGA or not a MAGA? What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on all these Republicans that are going after Bragg, saying that it's all political? Maybe you're one of those people that also thinks it's all political. Or maybe you take my side and say, let the chips fall where they may. If he didn't break the law, then that will be proven in court. But if he did break the law, then he needs to be held to account. 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283.
So before I go on to our social media accounts, I just want to say, Justin, this is a good song going into commercial break. Where'd you get the song from? You don't know? Well, hey, I like it, so keep it up. Keep up the good work, man. Hey, if you're listening to us live on air, we are also live on our social media accounts at PTL Radio Show. That's PTL RADIO SHOW. We have great music playing right now. We have amazing behind the scenes on our social media accounts, and you get to see Brian and Jamie's new t-shirts. People are raving about it in our comments. Hey, make sure to follow us again at PTL Radio Show. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Then join one of the fastest growing talk shows, Pushing the Limits. We have a wide range of sales packages that can fit your budget. Anything from on-site live remotes to in-studio interviews. Email Jamie, JamieD@KSHP.com. That's JAIME, capital DEE, @KSHP.com. Welcome back to Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro and Jamie D.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're back.
It's been about 24 hours since Donald Trump had his first arraignment, facing 34 felony charges, and we're getting your thoughts on that at 702-221-7283. And again, that number if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Agree, disagree with the charges, and what Donald Trump is going to be facing. I guess his next court appearance isn't for quite some time now. 702-221-7283. Why don't we start off with Damon? Damon first up this segment. Hi, Damon. What's going on?
What's up, Damon?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
How you doing, man?
What's on your mind today, Damon?
Well, you know how I feel, Brian. You know, I want to see him locked up, put up under the jail.
Not under the jail.
Yeah, for real. But my thing is this. The hypocrisy. You remember, you know how I feel about police, Brian, right?
Yep, sure.
I'm driving right now, and the police in front of me, so let me put my phone down.
Hey, don't speak into existence now.
That'd be an interesting segment, though. I don't want you to get pulled over, but that would be a very, very interesting live phone call on the air if you did.
We do not need that type of breaking news on the radio.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is, you remember I told you I think 33% of police are bad. And I think 34% are good, and the other 33% are affable. They just go with the flow. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the Cleveland Police Department, 33% of the Cleveland Police Department got indicted, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly the amount that I told you.
Yeah.
I've been saying defund the police, take away all this extra money, make them do what they're supposed to do, because the DOJ, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they've been all over police departments all over America. Now, Republicans, that was blasphemous to say defund the police. But now that Trump is in jail, have you noticed that Jordan is saying defund the CIA, defund the FBI?
I agree. Let's be very clear on this. The real party that wants to defund the police is Republicans, not Democrats. Most Democrats do not agree with defunding the police, including Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who want to allocate some funds to other precincts, but they don't agree with defunding the police. There are a few Democrats that do. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Democrat, but I don't agree with defunding the police. I don't know about your statistic. It's impossible for me to say what's in every police officer's heart. I will say it like this. I do believe in my heart that there are more good cops than bad cops. There are still way too many bad cops out there that should be held to account, Damon. But I believe there are a lot of good cops out there that are also heroes that serve and protect and risk their lives every day. And I want the bad cops off the streets. What I do want to see is more good cops calling out bad cops. I don't think we see enough of that.
I agree 110%, Brian. It's just the reality of what I've seen. I just thought it was funny that 33% got indicted. That was just funny to me.
Yeah.
But my thing is the hypocrisy, though.
Yeah.
It's because of this one man, this orange turd, as you call him, they're willing to just ignore all law and order. And they've been yelling law and order since Nixon.
Right.
Since Nixon, that's when they call it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. And soon as something happens to them, it's like, well, laws ain't that important.
Yeah, right. Trust me, if Hunter Biden was on trial right now for a hangnail, Republicans would be all for it.
Oh, yeah.
But because it's the orange turd, it's got to be George Soros and it's got to be the Democrats, and Donald Trump can do no wrong. Damon, It's despicable. I appreciate you calling in. We agree, my friend, and I hope you have a great day. And don't get pulled over by the cops, okay, my friend?
Stay safe out there, Damon.
Amen.
All right.
Take it easy.
Thanks, Damon. Good to hear from you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to JW. JW is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, JW. What's going on?
Hey, man.
What's up?
So, obviously, one thing I do agree is, if he's broke the law, let the chips fall. But what I'm really calling for is, I got a bigger issue. Well, the government's busy trying to, left or right, trying to find, what's going on with Donald Trump or whatever. The Chinese currency, I hear, is taking over some of our U.S. dollars with, I guess, the trade issue or something about that. I don't know if you heard about that.
Well, let me just stop you and say the government's not going after Donald Trump. It's the DA of Manhattan.
Well, what I mean is, like, now the Republicans are going to look for something on the Democrats. Instead of worrying about...
Well, but they're not just going to look for something on the Democrats. They've been talking about Hunter Biden for 5 years. They've been talking about Joe Biden for years. They're still trying to say, some of them, that Barack Obama wasn't born in this country. It was Donald Trump that started that racist lie. So, with all due respect, I would just tell you that Republicans have been trying to find something on the Biden family and Hunter Biden for 5 years, and they found nothing. So it's not like they just woke up this morning and said, hey, let's go after Democrats now.
Yeah.
That.
We got bigger issues is what I'm trying to say.
I agree. I agree.
Wrong.
I agree with you 150%, JW. So now let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Are you a Republican?
No, I'm independent, to be honest.
Fair enough. So we are on the same playing field here, so to speak. Here's my question to you. You might disagree with some of the policies of Democrats, right? Like maybe raising minimum wage or, gun control issues or issues... facing student debt, so on and so forth. You might disagree with that. But can you name me some policies that Republicans have put in place or want to put in place that would help the economy and that would help lower the gun violence in this country? Because I can't think of one reasonable policy that Republicans are trying to implement right now. Can you?
As far as the gun policy?
As far as anything.
Both sides are focused on just trying to get each other in trouble.
I
disagree. The rest of the world,
I disagree.
Well, the rest of the world is cutting our, OPEC's going to cut the oil because the prince is not here to make us happy, he said. We got Russia, China, they're getting together. The U.S. dollar is now not the world's currency or the way it's looking. That's what I'm calling about.
Now, JW, actually, Brian, you're probably not going to like this, but I kind of agree with what JW is saying. I feel like the Democrats and Republicans are focusing too much on each other versus focusing on what's happening on our land right now. JW, I think you have a good point. I think that we're not focusing on the facts and the things that matter in our current society. There are so many different people who are homeless.
In 20 years, it's not going to matter about Donald Trump.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We have a lot of social issues.
In 20 years, it's going to matter that our currency's no longer number one.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to matter that our fuel, our oil is now being held, basically for ransom. That's what they need to work on. Not trying to get each other in trouble.
We're still focusing on, we're not focusing on the homeless epidemic that's happening right now. The gun epidemic. So you're not wrong.
A lot of things.
I disagree.
You disagree, Brian?
I disagree with both of you. And
really?
I could name you policies. I could give you facts and name you policies that Democrats have put in place, even the oil companies and corporate greed. And what Joe Biden is trying to do to tax the corporate greed and the oil companies in this country that are making record profits. I can talk to you about gun control and what Democrats...
Brian, when OPEC cutting the oil, there's going to be nothing to tax, my guy.
Okay, so you're telling me that you think that Democrats and Joe Biden, they're not doing anything to try to lower the gas prices?
Stop referring to Democrats and Republicans. The government in general needs to do what's right for the people.
And what can the government do to lower gas prices in this country? What is the government legally allowed to do?
Well, I would say let's stop focusing on throwing Democrats and Republicans in jail.
I didn't ask you, with all due respect, what they should stop focusing on. You're criticizing the government for oil prices, which makes no sense to me. But I'm asking you to prove your point. What can the government legally do to lower gas prices in this country?
You know what? Just as an American, it would even be nice to see them trying to do something. What
And I'm
trying
asking
to say is
you,
they're not doing anything
I
at all.
understand. I get your
All right,
point.
Brian, I'm not going to get into this. Have
You're
a
not,
good day, my man.
so
I
you
said it
can't,
later.
so you don't want to get into it, and you don't know what the government can do, but yet you're going to criticize the government. Let me answer the question for you, because I don't think you truly understand. The government can't set oil prices. You don't know what you're talking about. And I gave you an opportunity to make your point, and you couldn't do it. I will go back and I will say what I said earlier. The reason why I talk about Democrats and Joe Biden, because I get the sense that people like you want to blame Joe Biden for the gas prices in this country. I repeat, the oil companies in this country have had record profits, higher profits than they've had in 15 years. Guess what that's called? It's called corporate greed. Joe Biden has put forth a bill to tax these companies to give them incentives to lower the price of oil. And when you want to criticize the government, and you also, claim that the government is going after Trump, which is also not true. That's wrong. The government has no say in setting prices of oil and gas in this country. So what you're saying doesn't make any sense. Now listen, I'm with you. If you call yourself an independent, which I'm not sure you are, but I'll take you for your word, and you're frustrated with the price of gas in this country, then tell me what Republicans have done. They've done nothing to lower the price of gas prices here. The reason why gas prices are up throughout the country, there are multiple reasons. COVID being one of them. Coming out of a global pandemic, it's the reason why gas prices are up throughout the world.
Now,
and Joe Biden has put forth certain laws in place, or I should say taxing the oil companies in this country and giving them incentives to lower prices. It has nothing to do with the government, and I'm sorry, JW, I appreciate the phone call. You're entitled to your opinions, but you have no idea what you're talking about.
No, Brian, I agree with you on this point specifically. JW, I really wish you would have stuck on one topic at hand, because you did kind of get it a little confusing. You lost me. But I do want you to make mention about this, Brian. Do you not think that the Republicans and Democrats are not focusing on the right things in the media currently? I mean,
I disagree.
Yes, this whole Trump thing is a huge ordeal, but we've been talking about this for over a month and a half now. Why are we not talking about the things that matter, the homelessness, the gun control? We're not even talking about the Nashville shooting anymore. That was a weak thing. That's gone now.
Gun control.
But listen, hold on. That was gone. I'm sorry, it's gone now. I'm sorry to say this, but there will be another mass shooting probably next month.
And whose fault is that?
That's the media's fault. That's the government's fault.
Disagree.
We're not talking about it enough. We're not focusing on the facts enough, Brian.
I disagree with you. Democrats.
How can you disagree with me?
I'm
But you're the
telling
same one upset 2 weeks ago.
I disagree.
That you were the same one upset 2 weeks ago that we're not getting enough press and enough politics involved in gun control, because and now look, we had 1 week of them doing press conferences, and that was it. Now we're talking about Trump. Where do the press conferences go about gun control? Where are we seeing them having meetings about gun control? Where are we seeing these laws and things being voted on right now? Nowhere. It's not even in the news anymore.
I disagree with you. Democrats have been talking about this since Columbine every single day.
And what's being done?
Ron DeSantis. And whose fault is that? I think you need to understand which side is not doing anything.
And I agree. The Republicans aren't.
Okay.
I agree with you on that point.
Ron
I'm on the same side with that.
DeSantis just passed a bill yesterday, a no-carry bill.
I saw that, in Florida.
That is a Republican. Democrats, even yesterday, during, by the way, which is one of the bigger stories, not just of the year, but of decades, which is Donald Trump being indicted, a former president being indicted. Democrats are talking about gun control. Many of them on Capitol Hill yesterday were talking about what took place in Tennessee with the marches.
This happened yesterday.
So I disagree with you. A lot of Democrats out there are every single day are talking about gun violence.
And you said this happened yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And are we getting actual good media coverage on this? Where did you see this at?
It's not about the media coverage.
Yes, it is, because
it's about Republicans not doing anything.
But then again, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
And it was on CNN. It was on MSNBC yesterday.
What was it on live news yesterday?
What do you mean? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, cool. Okay, I want to make sure. I want to make sure.
There were protests in Tennessee yesterday. They're still covering the shooting, and they're covering on the shooter.
Okay.
And more information is certainly coming out. They've covered the funerals. So I disagree with you. It's not Democrats that have been talking about gun control every day for the last 3 decades. It's Republicans that are not only refusing to do anything about it, but making it easier for people to carry guns, hence the Ron DeSantis bill that just came in yesterday. Let's take one more call, and then we got to go to break. Let's go to Lauren. Hi, Lauren. What's going on? Lauren, are you there? Did we lose Lauren?
We lost Lauren?
It's okay. Sometimes that happens from time to time where we lose a caller. Welcome to. All right.
Oh, she's back.
I think we got him back on. Lauren, what's going on?
Yes. I just wanted to comment on some of the topics you're talking about. As far as the oil issue, yes, our government is got a lot to do with it.
How so?
Our president has pushed to alleviate all gasoline engines or the building of the engines by 2030. So what incentive is there for our oil companies to keep spending their money on something that the government is pushing to stop?
So first of all, that's not going to happen. We are going to have gasoline.
What do you mean it's not going to happen? That's what the policy is.
We're not going to have all electric cars by 2030. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I agree with you on that because our infrastructure will not support it.
Number two, the president of the United States does not set gas prices. He just doesn't set the gas prices.
I know he doesn't set gas prices, but he sets policy.
Okay, so why would you say then gas prices are up throughout the world then, for the most part? I would say 82 or 83%.
I would say that when it comes to oil-producing nations, we're paying more for gas than any other oil-producing nation in the world.
Gas prices are higher in other countries, and gas prices have dramatically gone up in the last several years. So my question to you is, if you think it's just Joe Biden's fault, then what about 90% of the world?
It's the policies.
So
it is the policies.
So it has nothing to do with the war in the Ukraine. It has nothing to do with the pandemic, and it's Joe Biden's policies.
If that's the case, then why are they only paying 30 cents for a gallon of gas in an oil-producing nation, and we're paying $4 and change?
Well, I think the simple answer to that is corporate greed, sir, which I talk about on this show all the time. We have a lot of corporate greed.
Okay. And the government has absolutely nothing to do with
then
policy.
Why is it that the oil companies in this nation for the last several years have had higher profits than they've had in almost 2 decades? How do you explain that? If it's not corporate greed.
Demand.
So it has nothing to do with these corporations. Nothing to do with the corporations at all in corporate greed. It's just
the demand for gas.
So if it's a demand for gas, then you're making the point for me. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has everything to do with what you're saying is just demand coming out of a pandemic.
You know, the other issue is when Joe Biden went over to beg for oil from the Saudis and the Saudis refused to give it to him, what did he do?
I don't recall Joe Biden begging for oil, so I'm not sure.
He went to Saudi Arabia specifically to ask for them to increase their oil production.
Okay, I think.
Why? And then when they refused to do it, what did he do? He threatened them with our armaments that they bought, saying that, well, we just won't give you stuff to repair your equipment.
Well, it sounds to me, Lauren, that we have a very fundamental disagreement that you want to pin this all on Joe Biden for gas prices. We just simply...
It's policy, Brian. It's not Joe Biden himself.
So, I disagree with you. You're saying it's policy, but yet the corporations are the ones that set the gas prices, not Joe Biden.
You have a person that's over the Department of Energy that is just simply pushing to get electric, and we don't have.
Why is that a bad? Why is that a bad thing?
Do you realize the Inflation Reduction Act? One, because we don't have the infrastructure to support it.
We don't have the infrastructure to support electric cars.
Have you ever lived in a country where the electricity just goes off?
We don't have the infrastructure in the United States of America to support electric cars? Is that what you're saying?
No, we do not. Not at this point. We do not.
Well, listen,
why was California during the summer months asking people, do not charge your cars this past summer?
Very, very simply.
Why?
I'll give you the answer. You're asking me a question.
Why?
You're asking me a question, Lauren. I'm going to give you an answer because we were in the middle of a global pandemic that everybody was sitting in their homes, and we didn't want an electric grid happening in parts of California. So what responsible people decided to do, like the governor has said, hey, don't charge your vehicles right now because everybody was sitting in their homes. That's why, Lauren. How do you not know that? We were during a global pandemic. Do you hear him saying that now? Why did he say it back then and he's not saying it now? Because not everybody's sitting in their homes using all their electricity. Thank you for the call, Lauren. I appreciate that. And we have to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, well, the government alleged this man of organized crime. He calls himself the last of the dinosaurs, and I am really looking forward to speaking with him. He's going to have a lot of stories to tell, I know.
Fun.
Yes, legendary stories from Frank Citro joining us in studio next. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Oh, yeah.
Hey everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Is your dog suffering from a sensitive stomach? Hi, it's Kelly the Cookie Lady from Mooch's Munchies. Our dogs had super sensitive tummies, and I needed to find a low-fat treat that wouldn't give them gas or other issues. Most of the treats on the market were loaded with fillers, chemicals, and chicken fat. Many of them weren't even food. Well, I knew I could do better, so I developed Mooch's Munchies, and I'm happy to be able to share them with you. Stop by our store or our website, moochesmunchies.com, and find out why we say that Mooch's Munchies are totally pawsome.
Welcome to Hash House A Go-Go, where we've been serving farm food and crafted cocktails for over 2 decades. Visit us for the full Hash House experience at any of our 5 Las Vegas locations. Hash House A Go-Go is where old school
weekdays on 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas and KSHP.com.
Welcome to Hash House A Go-Go, where we've been serving farm food and crafted cocktails for over 2 decades. Visit us for the full Hash House experience at any of our 5 Las Vegas locations. Hash House A Go-Go is where old school meets new and gets twisted. We bring people together over good food and fun. Come in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and come hungry because our portions are huge. Visit us online to see our entire menu at hashhouseagogo.com. Hash House A Go-Go. It's a Midwest thing, and there's nothing else like it.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Then join one of the fastest growing talk shows, Pushing the Limits. We have a wide range of sales packages that can fit your budget. Anything from on-site live remotes to in-studio interviews. Email Jamie at jamiedee@kshp.com. That's JAIMEDEE@kshp.com.
All right, welcome
Ladies
back.
and gentlemen, now is the time for the host and the millennial who keeps him in check. Get ready for the stories that matter to you. It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro and Jamie D.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Man, they got some great promotions this month. Keno Multiplier. I know Chris Wynn would love that. 3 times points on Wednesdays in April, and they have these hot seat Mondays where every Monday they give away either $25 in free play or $100 in free play just for playing. Go there, check for more details, but pretty great food, great atmosphere. Jackson's Bar and Grill. I was out there last week, and my good friend, Brian Slipbach, he and Robin are just the nicest people in the world, and they say, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. He's a guy that you might have heard of before. He's a regular here at Jackson's, great guy. And Google his name. You'll learn a little bit more about him. And as soon as he said the name Frank Citro, I said to myself, I know who this guy is. I've read about him. He's got a lot of stories, and this is somebody I would love to meet. And I met him. We had a great conversation. And the government, of course, alleging him of being involved with organized crime. He calls himself the last of the dinosaurs. I'll let him expand a little bit on that, but it certainly is a pleasure having Frank Citro joining us in studio. Frank, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Actually, it's I've been looking forward to this all week because you're a friend of Brian's, which I know for quite some time, so that makes you an automatic friend. Okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I don't like to do too many of these type of shows, but it's a pleasure to do it. I hope I could be some kind of insight to you and your audience. Mm-hmm. I hope I don't upset anybody, but if I do, forget about it. I don't care.
Frank, I upset people every day. I don't care either, so we agree on that.
Good,
good. I call Donald Trump the orange turd, and it gets people up in arms.
You want to talk about, I'm not a politician guy.
Right.
But I want to tell you something that just I made mention to to somebody last night. Because I think our country's in a sad, sad state right now, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever the hell. But I want to tell you what came across to my mind. A lot of times, lawyers will call me up to get my take on the way I would do a case, if I was the lawyer, because sometimes they can't figure out how to go with it. But, this is what I thought. Isn't it amazing that this week is Holy Week? Mm-hmm. And there are so many people out there want to disband holy stuff no matter what way you believe in the Lord. Now, I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a church guy, but I do believe in the Lord. But isn't it amazing on Holy Week, the way they persecuted, tortured, and crucified Jesus, the Son of God? They're doing that to Donald Trump. Our country's in bad shape with this situation. No matter what you want to believe, they want to put the nails in his hands.
Well, as I've said, Frank, from the beginning, you're innocent until proven guilty. That's the way this country works. And my thoughts on that is if Donald Trump broke the law, then let the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to say this isn't political because it probably is.
Right.
But I also believe that Donald Trump has probably broken the law, but he's innocent until proven guilty. And we'll have to see where the chips fall there. We'll get back to that. I want to ask you this. How long have you lived here in Las Vegas for?
Well, actually, the first time I came here was in the middle of 1962.
Wow. I was not born yet.
And after a tremendous amount of trips back and forth, I came here back, I'd say in 1969 when I decided to come and stay.
Originally from?
New Jersey, Jersey
You're
City.
a Jersey guy. I love it.
Yeah.
Atlantic City?
Jersey City, right next to beautiful scenic Newark.
I grew up in Connecticut. I used to go to New Jersey all the time. And we'll talk about my favorite show of all time out of New Jersey, The Sopranos. We'll get to that. All right, so you come out here in the early 60s.
Right.
When was the first time you were introduced to, say, a Spilatro or Lefty Rosenthal? When do you remember that first conversation where you were introduced to those two men?
Well, I'm going to be really honest with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch what I say because...
Understood. I am too.
This is something I have to really think about. But I'm not going to do any bad language because you have a very nice audience.
That's debatable.
But, I'm going to be kind of truthful, and because I'm the type of guy that really don't care. You want to step forward? I'm an old man, but see how it works out for you.
Understood.
But, I came out here with, say, in '69 and whatever. And it wasn't much after that. A couple years later, that that I knew who Tony was, and Tony knew who I was. And there's a situation between him and I that I disclosed a little bit about 6 months ago to another station in Europe. But I can't get into that. But, and then the Lefty Rosenthal's, to me, I never liked this guy at all. You understand? Actually, I give him a slap a few times.
You got into physical altercations with
I
Lefty.
give a punk a slap. That's what he deserves,
So
and you know what? You see this movie Casino?
Yes.
And they got that other jerk off, Robert De Niro. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, I don't like Biden, but he's still my president, even though I don't like him.
Right.
And this guy turns around and says things about, Trump, what he would do to him. I like him to say that to me, You
don't like Robert De Niro talking
No, because
politics,
I don't like the way he carries himself. Don't never denounce your president.
I hear what you're saying, but going back to the movie Casino.
Right. That's all full of garbage.
So let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, because this is very interesting to me. You got into physical altercations with the real Lefty Rosenthal.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were very scared of Lefty Rosenthal.
Yeah, well, that's a view.
Can you explain to me the first physical altercation, if you remember the discussion you guys were having and the fallout you had, and what led to a physical confrontation with Lefty Rosenthal?
Well, actually, it was at the Stardust, and I'm testing my memory now. And there was a fella there that was selling watches.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those days, it was just like in New York. A guy got some stuff, and the guy had a nice watch.
Right.
And some guy had bought it that I knew, and it wasn't what it was supposed to be. So I grabbed the guy, and I says, give me his money back.
Fake? Were they fake watches?
Well, they weren't what they were supposed to be.
I understand.
They were bogeys.
Okay.
It looked good, but it wasn't.
Right.
And now this guy is, he's not a tough guy. Somebody knows me, and I'm not that I'm a tough guy. But he said, Frankie, could you help me get my... So I told the guy, give him his money back. You understand? Well, anyway, he didn't want to do it. There's a little confusion. Here comes Lefty Rosenthal with security. Security knows me. Lefty don't know me. And he knows this guy because he probably was getting a few hours from him.
He was getting kickback.
Yeah. Well... He says, hey, and I give him a crack right there on the floor of the Stardust.
You punched Lefty Rosenthal?
No, I slapped him like the bitch that he is.
Oh, you slapped him?
You slapped Lefty Rosenthal?
Yeah, right. Yeah, why?
Wow. No, that's fascinating to me. I heard stories.
What? Like somebody's going to come knock on my door?
No, listen, being the guy that you are, that does not surprise me. You don't take crap from people.
No, I won't.
I respect that. But Lefty was a guy that I heard from people, because I play golf a lot at Las Vegas Country Club, and a lot of those guys used to play out there. And people told me stories about Lefty that if you even called him Lefty, you could be in a lot of trouble. Is that false? Is that fake? Is that a false story?
I can't tell you about other people.
Right.
Titles,
yeah,
position, wealth don't mean nothing to me.
So let me go back to this story. You smack him.
Right.
What
Let me tell you
happened?
something. Let me, because how my mind is.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Brain farts. Lefty should have got slapped every time he got dressed for being so miscoordinated.
Oh.
This guy was the worst dresser I ever seen in my life.
This is coming from you with this awesome hat on.
Golf players didn't wear the crazy things they wore.
Right.
They put nice clothes halfway decent on De Niro in the movie.
So Frank, after you smack him, does he hit the ground? Does he stand up?
Oh, he didn't hit the ground, but he stumbled a little bit.
What does he say to you after that?
Ouch!
That's it?
Well, because
does he walk away?
Because the security knew me.
They knew who you
were. They weren't going to step towards me.
Oh, they didn't stop you.
They didn't expect I was going to do it, but I wasn't going to put up with his BS.
And then
another time I cracked him in California.
So the next time you see him, was it in California? He knew who
I
you
seen
were.
him all the time after that, but he knew enough not to try to tell me.
So
something.
he didn't disrespect you after that, or
Oh,
didn't?
no.
Right. He knew better. He wasn't going to do that.
Especially that Tony told him.
Right.
You better not.
So you say Tony, you say Spilatro.
Yeah.
Because they were buddy for a while, right?
Yeah, for a while.
And does Spilatro say anything to you after that situation? Does he? talk to you about that?
Not a word.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the mutual respect we have for each other.
Right.
Listen, just like politics, a lot of people are going to have good thoughts, bad thoughts about different people. And I'm winging this in my head right now.
No, I understand, but do you feel like people behind the scenes talked about you and said, hey, you don't want to mess with this guy?
Well, I'm sure there was people that said that.
Right.
But, basically I'm a good guy.
Right.
Just don't think that I'm a punk or
I've
a fag
enjoyed talking to you.
That you're going
Right.
to stick it in my keys for Easter.
But
It
there's
ain't
certain
happening.
people you don't disrespect. There's certain people.
I live in a world of respect.
Right.
You show
whether it's the
respect.
president, whether it's the president or a former president, you're a man that you want to respect people until they give you a reason not to respect them.
Exactly right.
And that's old school, right?
I've done a lot of documentaries and I say it.
Right.
A man is only as good as his word. When the man's word's no good, the man's no good.
When do you think that ended as far as the era changed and the disrespect was so imminent? Do you feel like it was the 80s, the 90s? Because back in the late 60s and 70s, for the most part, people knew not to respect other people, especially their elders and people that were in power. Do you feel like that changed over the years?
I would think in the mid-70s it started, and here's my viewpoint on that. I think it was the government who made it fashionable for people on the street and so-called wise guys to become stool pigeons and give them a license and give them some way to go. You understand what I'm saying? And that loosened everything up.
Right.
And then the respect started to be lost with that. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, understood.
And that's my viewpoint. I think the government, even though we live in the greatest country in the world, our government is bad. And they want their end on everything they do. Look, bookmaking is illegal.
Right.
Yet they got into it. They got off track betting. Gambling was illegal. They handle all the lotteries. Are you kidding me?
And isn't it interesting that the government only legalizes things like sports betting and marijuana when they get a piece?
That's the only time. Otherwise, you're double.
So you got into sports betting many, many years ago, right? And
Yeah, a
by the
little
way,
bit.
I still know, for the record, a lot of people who are bookies that have not been caught that, take action from people. It's still happening all over
People
the place.
don't even know why the bookmaker is so strong. Do you know why?
Why?
You see, if you know what off-track betting is,
Of course.
and if you go to the casino here, they got all the sports books.
Of course.
What do you have to do when you go there and you want to bet the Clippers? We'll say, right? You have to put your money up.
Right.
But if you go to a bookmaker, you go on credit.
You go on credit.
You go on your word.
Can I ask you a question? And
Ask
you don't
me a
have
question.
to. You don't have to answer
Well,
it if you don't want
listen,
to.
if I don't want to answer it,
Then
I
don't
will
answer
have
it.
it interrogated by the best.
What do you do when you have a client back in the day who loses 2 bets in a row, 3 bets in a row, 4 bets in a row? He's into you for maybe 10 racks, let's just say. Refuses, he will not return your phone calls. He will not respond to you. You know he's running from you. Back in the early 70s, how do you handle a client like that? Obviously, you're not going to take his action anymore, I would imagine. That's obvious.
Well,
but-
let me try to answer it this way.
Yep.
I have heard some people might handle it this way. Some people, if they lent you money or gave you credit, you knew in front that's the person you should pay. There's some people you can get away with things with. It's like, your mom, you can tell your mom you'll be home at 7:30 at night, and you get there at 8:30, and she gives you half a bowl of cereal instead of a full bowl. Some people are going to take that whole bowl from you, and you know it. So, some people will test the waters, but without going into the violence part of it, which I think you read it in between the lines.
Of course.
There's some people you just can't play with,
Right. So, there are some people, right? They just don't have the money. They're broke. The degenerate gamblers. But you look at like a series like The Sopranos. You lean on them with their businesses. You take a piece of their
this
business.
is something else that people don't know.
Right.
So let's pretend I'm a bookmaker.
Yep.
And he comes to me, he wants to bet a game. He's never bet with me before. What's the first thing I got to say to myself? Why does he want to bet with me? Why does he bet with the regular guy he bets? That means he owes somebody some money.
Oh.
Or he had an argument.
Right.
Otherwise, why would he want to bet with me? He's a new customer.
Right.
You understand? Now, if he doesn't come to me right, like you did for me to get here,
right.
you got to come to me right. You
Of
can't
course.
just walk up to me and say, hey, come on, I want to do a radio show. I want to talk to you.
I don't know what the government alleged you did with sports betting, but what can you tell us that you're able to tell us? How long were you in this business? Can you say that? How long were you a
I
bookmaker?
never was in the business. As I went to prison because I said I didn't do anything.
Right. You never.
I'm still pleading not guilty.
You never.
It ain't working.
Right. But you never in a courtroom. What do you make of narcs? What do you make of the people that were wired? What do you make of the people that were trying to get after you because they were trying to cover their own
Well,
ass?
they've been doing that my whole life. But anyway, when it comes to narcs, meaning drugs, that's something that I stayed away from my whole life. You know, even today, and I've had a lot of operations in the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a martyr. I don't believe in drugs.
Mm-hmm. My sister just passed away from drugs 2 months ago, 37 years old. So trust me, I'm with you on that, Frank.
You know, when I came out here, I had my first family. I had
Mm-hmm.
daughters back home. I literally went all around and said, and this doesn't make me a tough guy. It just makes me my own person.
Mm-hmm.
This was my way to try to protect my family.
Right.
When I came out here and I was going to stay here, and there's a reason why I came out here, is I went to everybody back there that I thought was involved
Mm-hmm.
in, because drugs was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, I'm going to tell you something. If either one of my daughters ever get any of your product, you're not going to like the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that they don't get it. Don't sell it to them. Don't
And they
give
listened
it
to
them.
you. They listened.
Well, they knew I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And I says, and if you know one of my daughter's friends
Mm-hmm.
that you're selling something to, might give it to them, they're going to pay too.
I don't blame you. I don't
And
blame
guess
you.
what? They were fortunate enough because
Yeah.
that it didn't happen.
How many people in your life do you think you had conversations with, whether it be on the phone or in person, that you suspect might have been wired?
Oh, well, a tremendous amount of people because
Dozens, hundreds?
I would say a good sum of people. I would say in my lifetime, people trying to put me in a trick bag, every bit of over 30 major times.
Frank, how can you trust people?
I don't.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't trust you.
I'm not wearing a wire.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's hard for you
Because
to
let me
trust
tell you something. People always try to hurt other people. I said something to your guy out front.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. If the politicians, and I use that in general, would leave the people alone,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be fighting with each other. We'd be able to get along. If the politicians would do to their wives and husbands what they've been doing to the public of the United States, they'd be pretty happy campers in that bedroom.
I agree.
You know?
No, listen, I agree with you. If you're just joining us, by the way, he is Frank Citro, legend, and as he calls himself, the last of the dinosaurs. And you say that, Frank, because a lot of people that are your age, sadly, are no longer with us anymore.
No, there aren't too many people around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, quite honest with you, with all the situations that I've been in, physical, mental, you know, incarceration, stabbings, bullet wounds, fights.
Right.
I don't know sometimes why I'm still here, but like I alluded to earlier, I do believe in the Lord, and I really believe when He wants you, that's when you're going. It doesn't matter how much money you got. Like Steve Jobs had all the money in the world.
Cancer, yeah.
When the world wanted him, he took him. It doesn't matter if you how much power you got, who you. When He wants you, you're going. It doesn't mean. When I say He, you could be praying to Buddha or Jesus or you know. It doesn't matter what denomination that you believe in.
Yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their own.
I agree with you. Somebody else that's around.
There ain't nothing saving you when that guy wants you.
No, you're right about that, Frank.
But see, here's my problem.
Yeah.
He don't want me, and he don't want me. The Lord don't want me because he knows I'll be chasing a few of those angels up there.
No, I understand.
The devil don't want me because he knows I'll try to install air conditioning.
Do you believe there's a heaven and hell?
Also a purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe that.
Do you believe you're going to heaven?
I would like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying for a lot of years to change a lot of things, but I can't change the past.
Right.
I will not be a hypocrite. But I'm not happy about a lot of things that I did in my life, but I can't change it. And part of my goal has to been, and I'm not looking for sympathy from anybody, is to try to do a couple of good things. You know, in fact, I want you to ask. Here's a good thing. I'm going to do a little advertisement if you don't mind.
Sure.
This month, the 19th, at the Italian American Club.
Great place.
I'll be on the show there with about 20 other entertainers for it's a fundraiser for the NF Hope. You understand?
Yes.
And those are the kids with neurofibrosis.
That's nice of you to do that. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this here. Check out the Italian American Club.
I'll talk
the
about
The monies go
Yep.
to I'm going to be on the show. They're looking forward to me to be Frankie C, and I'm known to do a couple of nice things.
I love that.
And
you do things like that to help people and to,
I've done a lot of charity work.
I love that.
You know.
Yeah.
A few years back ago, I did a big event, and this really upset me. I did a big event to help out some police officers that were behind the Candlelight Kids, and I put together a show within 48 hours that would have taken more than 6 months to do, and then when it came out in the newspaper that I was the one that helped, the superiors got very mad at the officers that were running it.
That's too bad.
And it made me very upset because I was doing it for the kids.
Speaking of things that get you upset, which is not something I want to do here today, but
No.
I want to ask you this, Frank.
Sure.
What is the most upsetting thing when people come up to you and they hear your name? What's the thing that upsets you the most? A question that they might ask you that annoys you or that's offensive? Like, what have you gotten in your life?
Can I be really honest?
Sure.
Okay. You might not like it out there, and you might not like it in here. But right now, I'm looking around the room, and this is how I'm going to answer it. This is the start of a new joke. We got a Jew, we got a black guy, and an Italian. And they walked into a bar. So, to try to be as nice as I could, and you'll have to allow me to say a certain word, even though I don't normally use it.
Okay.
You say what upsets me. You take your Oh, here. He's a black man.
Uh-oh.
Be very honest.
Uh-oh.
After a while, you get tired of hearing this and tired of hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
I know an awful lot of black people in my lifetime, being an entertainer, being involved. And to me, excuse the word, there's a big difference between a black man and a nigger. And you could be a white person being that. You could be a Chinese person being that. As much as he would be upset, it's not funny to me. Hey, you're white, how you doing? They want to emulate something they've seen in a commercial, a movie.
Stereotypes, yeah.
And you want to know
You don't
something?
like that.
After a while, it's the same thing as you, my friend. And I just know you.
I was worried about where you were going to go with that. I was like,
Well, I'm being honest with you. You want me?
I was about to give my piece too.
As much as you would be offended,
Yeah.
it does to me.
Did The Sopranos offend you? Because there were a lot of.
Let me tell you about The Sopranos.
Sure.
First of all, whether you want to believe it or not, I'm not a liar. I knew all those people that they talked about personally. Now, I said for 2 years, somebody's talking out of school because the first couple of years of The Soprano was so on the money. That means a lot of people opened up their yap. You understand? But then after that, somebody goes to say, hey, you're coming up with too much stuff. And then they went into the dream sequences and this and that. And then, so.
Is realistic, you think, though? A lot of it was very realistic.
A lot of it was on the money, too much on the money.
Well, Paulie Walnuts is a guy that used to be.
Oh, and I knew.
Yeah. So you knew him.
Sure, I did another movie with him. You understand? But I just had to straighten somebody else out not too long ago. Not when I say straighten out, I don't mean physically,
Right.
but
Not like Lefty Rosenthal. You straightened him out.
you'd be surprised the ones that I've straightened out. Nobody ever come looking for me without being with a gang of guys.
Do you believe that there were tons of people in Las Vegas that were truly scared of Frank Citro? There were people that were scared of you that didn't even really want to talk to you because they were afraid they might say the wrong thing.
No. People knew how I conducted myself. I've always been a gentleman outside. I wasn't a guy that was going to put up with any nonsense from anybody. I don't want to sound like I'm making myself a hero. I wasn't afraid to get a punch in the nose because, a lot of people know I was a professional fighter too.
Right.
If you don't recognize me, I can lay down for you. Don't start laughing. So anyway, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, and I didn't mix my words when I spoke to somebody. It was very clear what the conversation was going to be.
How many times in your life did you feel to yourself that this could be the end, that you felt like people were out to get you or maybe even kill you?
It still is the same way.
Do you?
Let me tell you something.
I don't know what it's like to live like that.
Let me tell you something. I have this asked all the time, like you said a little while ago. Frankie, how many tough guys have you known in your lifetime? And I told him, truthfully, I've only known 2 tough guys my whole life, and I get a Christmas card from the other guy every year. Did you hear what I said?
I do, yeah.
Now, whether you want to believe this or not, in Jersey, I used to belong as a teenager to a gang called the Mean 13. And there was only one other member besides me in the gang. You got the picture?
I do, yeah. How many times, though, in your life, Frank, was a gun pulled on you?
Many times.
Dozens?
Many.
And you survived every single one of those circumstances. How?
I've taken a couple of bullets in my lifetime. And I'm trying to be honest with you and be honest with myself without making myself a hypocrite or sound better than I am or less. You do what you have to do for the moment that you're involved in. If you got somebody who's got a gun to your head, you either tell him to pull the trigger or shut the hell up and do what he says for that. But don't think you're going to walk away because you scared me with it. I remember the first somebody did put a gun to me, I was just 13 years old.
A gun to
and
you?
Put it to my temple.
Oh, my God. In New Jersey?
In New Jersey. Can I get a little out of line for a second?
Yes. Say what you need to say.
I remember the circumstances. There was I was almost 13. I was with a friend of mine. His name also was Frank. We're going down the street. We spot this here guy. This guy was about 20, known to have hurt and killed a couple of people. You understand what I'm saying? A total wacko, a nut. And he hated Italians. And he would hit you and hurt you.
White guy, black guy?
White guy.
White guy.
And as soon as he saw us, he's going to hurt us because he knows we're the neighborhood guy. That's his thing. You
Right.
understand? And I'm thinking that's how to do this. So we take off because he comes after us. And we get to a point, I went this way and my buddy went the other way. And he's faster than me. And so I run and I duck in this alley back home. You understand? Between houses. But there was no way out. I picked the wrong alleyway, and he come in and he got me and easily threw me down because I'm a little guy and he's a man.
You're 12 years old.
12 and a half, about, yeah, about 12 and a half, 13. Threw me down very easily. And he took out an automatic and he put it to my head. And I wet myself. I remember that. I remember I had this little windbreaker on. I was so afraid, Brian. I pulled it up over like this here because I didn't even want to see it, because I know he kills people.
Right.
He kills people. It's not make believe. This guy kills people.
Right.
He gets paid to do it,
And
and he don't like certain people.
And he only pinned you down and pointed the gun at your head as a 12-year-old because he didn't like Italians.
That was
That's
one
it.
of the reasons. Just because I was a neighborhood guy,
Right.
all right. And I was totally terrified. And it seemed like I was there for 100 years in a fetal position. And then all of a sudden I realized he wasn't there. And I look up, and I don't see him in the alleyway. And my mind says, he's trying to fool me to make it more sinister or more gruesome. And I tiptoed out the alleyway, looked up and down. He was gone. To this day, I don't know why he didn't pull the trigger.
Frank, that's never something you ever forget.
No, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me finish this here.
Yeah.
You want to know something about me? I looked up and down the street. I had wet myself. I probably shed a few tears too, being honest with you. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I was so afraid. And I made a decision, Brian, right there on that sidewalk, that I never, ever will be afraid of another human on this planet for the rest of my life. And within a short period of time, that person was never, ever going to do that to somebody else. End of story.
He was taken care of.
End of story.
A normal situation with a 12-year-old that had to go through that experience would continue to probably live their life, and rightfully so. Frightened, scared.
I wasn't afraid no more. I made up my mind. I never will be afraid of another human being again in my life.
And that's probably a big reason why you're still here today.
Maybe.
That's incredible.
Maybe.
That's
I haven't told that to too many people.
That's incredible, and frightening at the same time. You're a young kid, but yet you had the toughness at such a young age. Where do you think you got that from? Did you get that from your family, your father, your mother? Where do you get that from?
I come from a very big family.
Mm-hmm.
I was the last out of 10. 10 boys. I was the youngest out of 10 boys. My father was a great guy. He loved my mother like you can't believe. My mother was my toughest opponent, and yet both of them educated me about a lot of things, They weren't happy with a lot of things that I did in life.
Right.
They didn't condone anything. But I got advice about certain things, and it was good advice.
Is there somebody that took you under their wing?
A lot of people took me
When
under
you see
their
a movie like because I asked that, you see, and again, it's a movie, but a Bronx Tale, right? That type of situation where somebody takes them under their wing. And I know you don't like Robert De Niro, but he happens to be.
No, you know what? Let me change this up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't like a couple of things that he said.
About the president, former president.
About other things, too. Now, I've done a couple of movies with him.
When you say you've done a couple of movies with him, you're on the set, you help writing
No,
of the movie?
I actually, for Midnight Run, I was the stand-in for Richie Ferrangi and a technical advisor with stuff like that. At the time, I still was on the show with Dennis Farina, who was my good friend for Crime Story, and I could tell you a million stories of just about all that there stuff.
And the director of Casino, of course, you had a lot of
Martin
interaction.
Scorsese,
Yeah.
He used to piss me off, this little son of a gun.
Why? What did he do to you?
Well, one of the things was I used to smoke. I quit smoking 6 years ago. I smoked from I was 8 and a half, 9 years old.
You started smoking at 9 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, I got pictures that my daughter came up with.
And how old are you now? You're in your 80s, right?
Yeah.
And wow, that's unbelievable. And you started smoking when you were 9.
I would say I was smoking almost regular when I was 9 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, well,
so what was your issue with Martin Scorsese? They wanted your help with Casino, right?
Well, Joe Pesci being in it. Joe used to be with me for a long time,
He lived with you for a little while,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And why is that? Because he wanted to learn.
Well, I knew Joey from back home.
You knew him because he's from back east.
Yeah,
right.
And sometimes something about Frank Citro. Frank Citro never asks anybody for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, even if it means my life. Joey made it. I never asked him to help me like me and other people would have. I know things about Joey that nobody knows. And listen, he became a big star and fine and everything like that. But there was a time I was upset with him.
When you say you know things about Joey that nobody else knows, are you saying things that would not portray him in a very good light?
Well, you want me to be really honest? And
Please.
he sees this here. I don't give a damn if he gets mad. This is what people don't know about Joe Pesci. There is no Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was a guy like James Cagney. He took a little bit from you, a little bit from you, a little bit from you, and he made his own character. And he became Joe Pesci. Mm-hmm. Now, I taught him how to do so many things that he made a lot of money with. Let me tell you a story. So he used to play with Frankie Vincent and nobody know. Only people
talk about Goodfellas.
Yeah. Frankie Vincent did a lot of movies with him. He was in Raging Bull and he was in Casino and all that stuff.
Right.
And Frankie was smart. He was a hipster, and he was from the neighborhood. And boy, I lost track of what I was going to say. Anyway, they used to play in down the shore, and they were Joe Pesci and Frankie Vincent. Joe played the lead guitar and sang. Frankie Vincent played the drums, and I think Bob was They were called the Aristocats, and they used to do a whole bunch of stuff. So Joey says to me one time, I used to go there with my Gumadi, and he says, Frankie, you gotta help me, man. I said, what? He says, I'm a little guy, always get in trouble with these other guys. I can't beat nobody up like you, And they always used to come to my fights, believe me. And he says, how do I get, so I'm on top of a situation. I said, look, Joey, it's simple. You're not a big man. You're not, and Joey had some nerve, He actually was a hairdresser at one point, like Danny DeVito. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I said, tell you what you do. You get a problem with a guy. In those days, all the bars, they all had ashtrays. You understand what I'm saying? Take an ashtray, put a towel on it, and crack the guy in the face with it. Hit him in the head. You'll get his attention, and he'll go down.
You're reminding me.
He did it in Raging Bull.
Right, and I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Goodfellas where he's at the bar, or maybe it was Casino. Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci at the bar, and a guy takes somebody's pen, and then
I'm going to tell you about that.
That's a real?
I taught him how to do it here in Vegas.
Really? You were in situations like that in real life yourself?
Oh, please.
Yeah, obviously. So that scene was something that you spoke to Joe Pesci about in Scorsese.
I taught him how to do it.
That's unbelievable.
But way before the movie.
Right. Somebody messed with you, stab him with a pen in the neck.
You see what happens, they're going to go.
How many situations like that you think you've been, I'm not even saying that you did it, that you've been involved with situations like that in your life? Hundreds, right?
Can I tell you something that's kind of selfish right now?
Yeah.
Because we didn't preempt anything that that's my phone, forget about it, I don't care. It's not Obama. It's not an Obama phone, folks. Anyway, so maybe forget what I was going to say.
We were talking about. Yeah.
And we didn't preamble any of this. Right. We're just winging it. And I'll come back another time if you want.
Of course, anytime. You're welcome anytime, sure.
But you ever hear of this guy, Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel, yep.
Vin Diesel, oh, yeah, all of a sudden now I have to be on Jeopardy with you. And so,
Did you ever meet members of the Rat Pack? Let's talk about something fun.
Oh, I knew them all the time.
What was that like, hanging out with those guys?
Let me tell you
something.
something.
Tell me about that?
Frank Sinatra was my very good friend. And let me tell you,
you were really tight with Frank. Wow, that's incredible.
My father and Frank Sinatra grew up in Hoboken in the same house.
Wow.
That's a whole different ball game with Frank.
Did you have any nights where you hung out with all those guys in Vegas and you guys were just
Frank Sinatra threw me a party in Jilly's that would stop an 8-day bike race.
Oh my God! And everybody was there.
Yeah.
Wow, that is unbelievable. That's
Frank was a good friend.
What were those guys like back in the day? You know them personally. What was Sammy Davis Jr. like?
You know, I had a situation with my own mother with Sammy Davis. Sammy Davis was some entertainer. So this is what happened. So my mother used to like to go to Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm not allowed in casinos, but I still was allowed at that time, you know. And I was a pretty heavy gambler. And my mother, let her rest in peace, my mother had to have breast cancer and have a breast removed. And I promised my mom I'd take her to Atlantic City with Dad, you know, for when she's feeling better, you know. So afterwards, fortunately, I had the money to get her a prosthesis and everything. And we go, I'm taking her to Atlantic City. And she's thrilled that she's still around. So I says, Ma, I'm tired because I had to fly in and everything. I says, give us some money, my father some money. I said, listen, I'm going to go up to the suite and go to sleep. I says, I made arrangements for you to go see the show tonight. She says, who's playing? I said, Sammy Davis. She says, I ain't going to go see that skinny little bastard. I don't like. I says, what? I didn't know she hated him.
Skinny bastard.
Yeah, well,
Sammy Davis seemed like a very nice man.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
So I said, Ma, this is one of the best of the day. I don't care. See, I didn't know about a situation that happened many, many, many years ago with a black man and my mother and my father, and they thought my father was just going to let it go, you know? But anyway,
yeah,
I'm not. I says, you're going to see the show. I got to go see some. I already made all kinds of arrangements with people.
Right.
So the next day, we're having the breakfast together. And I says, how was the show? And she went like this. She says, I am so glad that you made me go see that show last night.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
says, really, Ma? I says, he was sensational. She says, I don't think I've seen a better show my whole life. He says, every song was great. The way, he says, he didn't do one of his. I says, Ma, that's his persona on stage with all that. I said, she says,
she enjoyed it.
I can't believe that so I said, I tell you what, would you like to go see him again tonight? So the guy who was opening up, who just recently passed away about a year or so ago, Sal Richards, what a beautiful man. I called Sal up. I said, Sal, make arrangements again for my mother and father to come see Sammy tonight and all that, and do a little something special. He says, I'll take care of it. Tell Sammy knows it's me, right? Yep. Towards the end of the show, just before his last song, he says, May day, would you escort Mr. and Mrs. Citro to my suite after the show for a private party?
Oh, my gosh.
My mother felt like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. Oh, hello. You understand what I'm saying?
That's so cool.
Oh, to me,
did you ever have interactions with James Gandolfini about his Tony Soprano character?
Well, he would come out here, and I had a brief 2-minute conversation one time in a private place with a whole bunch of people. But, I've done this my whole life. I've never, ever put anybody in a precarious position because of what, that way they don't be hurt, you understand?
Sure.
And Gandolfini was terrific. Don't forget what happened. We lost Gandolfini and Dennis Farina in the same week,
Horrible.
And
horrible. Yeah.
He played Tony
Wasn't he
Soprano
great?
terrific.
I just think the acting on that
Actually,
show.
I should have been in The Sopranos,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I turned it down.
You were offered a role. Do you remember what role it was?
Sure.
What role was it?
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
If I want to tell you about it. They changed it up And the fella that's a big-time actor nowadays, who used to be the entertainment director.
Oh, of course.
Who are we talking about?
Tony Sciarippa. He's been on this show before.
It's Steve Sciarippa.
Or did I say Tony? I'm sorry, Steve.
I actually saved his life.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, that Jew, tough son of a gun. He was working a nightclub here on Las Vegas, on Paradise, and some guys wanted to shoot him one night. And I happened to show up. I said, what's going on? He said, Papa, I never let it happen. That guy could fight. But anyway, I had known about The Sopranos was going to come on the air because I knew a producer's girlfriend that I bothered in Santa Monica with, and they told me that this new show's coming out and that I would be perfect for it. So they got me an audition, and I got the opening show.
Wow.
And I turned it down. And
Was this Steve Sciarippa's character?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I turned it down.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because I was going to get killed off in the first 3 minutes of the opening of the show. So why would I want to do that? Nobody's going to get to know me. Right?
Oh, so this was...
So I told my agent to tell them, thank you very much.
Right.
And if they ever wanted me for an episode where I'm through the whole episode or a recurring role, they'll boom. Okay.
Gotcha.
So they did it because I'm a respectful guy. Mm-hmm. So now we get another call. And they want me for a recurring role. Oh, man. So they called me. My agent calls me. He says, Frankie, they called me. They want you, you know, because they heard more about me, you know. He says, you got to go to, I says, I'm in Jersey right now. He says, you got to go to New York. He says, because they want you tomorrow. I says, I ain't going.
Yeah.
He says, what? They said, you're there in Jersey and you don't want to go to New York? I says, I can't. Why can't you? I says, one of my brothers has passed away, and I'm here on family matters.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And family is first
Of course.
with me.
Yep.
And call them and tell them, thank you very much.
Right.
But I can't do it, and I
Right.
won't do it.
Of course.
And Steve Sciarippa, I think, was wind up with it. Now, a caveat to this story is, do you know who Jimmy Roselli is? Well, there was two Jimmy Rosellis. One was a gangster, and one was a big singer like Sinatra,
Right.
who Sinatra stifles his career. I knew him very well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a movie in California. I went and auditioned and aced it. Over 500 guys. I aced the part. Co-starring role. Dennis Farina was co-starring. John Travolta was starring about Jimmy Roselli, the singer.
Right.
They never did the movie. The movie was supposed to be a $90 million budget to maybe to go 120. They shelved it because John Travolta's schedule came up and they couldn't meet it, and they wind up doing it. But when I aced the part,
Yeah.
and it was for Van Sant was the director, and he knew I had flown in for it, right? And I aced it. I didn't know I aced it.
Van Zandt from the Sopranos, yeah.
Gus Van Sant was the
Oh,
director.
okay. Gotcha.
No,
Okay.
not Van Sant, the guy from
Okay. Gotcha.
the
Bruce
boss.
Springsteen.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Right,
not
right.
that.
I got you.
Gus Van Sant, I think, was the director's name.
I-
Big time.
I want, because we only have 2 minutes left to go. I told
Sure.
you the time goes really fast.
I'm sorry, guy.
No, what are you apologizing for? I love these stories. I'm kidding me. Frank, I want to give you one more opportunity before we go, and I'd love to have you back on again. You're welcome.
You're
welcome
never
back
break my
anytime.
word.
Thank you.
I will come back.
I appreciate that.
Because everybody's been wonderful to
Thank
me.
you. I appreciate
I hope
that.
more people listen in.
Yes,
You know?
I appreciate you coming in. I want to give you an opportunity because you have this great charity event that you're doing.
Yes.
And I want to give you another opportunity to talk about it, how people can get involved and raise money for charity.
Well, if you allow me to give this to your guy,
Sure,
he
sure,
can
sure.
show it.
Sure.
Let me tell you something. I have even trouble. My education is very limited. I didn't have too much, so my
You sound like a pretty smart guy to me.
Well,
I'm not saying that.
I have
just
trouble
to say
saying
it.
neurofibrosis, but it's the NF concert,
Right.
which is being held on the 19th at the Italian American Club. There's going to be at least 20 major entertainers. They asked me to be on there.
And when is it again?
the 19th of this month, correct,
Okay, I'm going
guys?
to do my best to be there.
And
Yep.
call up. You can get tickets.
Mm-hmm.
The money's going to be donated to these people that have it, but mostly it's for the kids that have this disease. You understand? And I was so thrilled that I was asked to be part of this show.
Sure.
And listen, you go there, you're going to get more than your money's worth. Take a couple of dollars, take it out of your pocket, put it in there to help
Yes.
these kids.
Yes.
Come down there and listen. I also, on a selfish note, go there, make arrangements to eat at the. It's one of the greatest
Yes,
eateries
I've been
in
there.
the
It's
planet.
phenomenal food. It's
And
old school. It's
so
phenomenal
treat
food.
yourself to a wonderful evening. I'm telling you, go
Yes.
get something to eat. Go see the show. I do not think anybody will be disappointed. And it's not.
And you're raising money
It's
for charity.
raised for these kids.
I love the fact that you're doing that, Frank. Well, let me say this: it's been an honor and a pleasure meeting you and having you
thanks
come
for
in the
coming.
studio. I could listen to your stories, and I feel like I can talk to you and listen to you all day. So I'd love to have you come back. I love these.
You made him so calm. Thank you. You calmed him down for us.
I yell a lot,
Yes.
Frank.
You
but-
know, I can't believe I raised my voice. Nobody else unless I really want to make a point.
Well, Frank, you and I are going to hang out at Jackson's one of these days too.
You know, isn't that a great spot?
Love Brian Slipbach. Wonderful.
You know, I got to
wonderful
tell you
spot.
something about Brian.
Yep.
And I've been going there an awful long time. Brian is a great guy,
For sure.
terrific businessman.
Yeah.
And you know, he never shunned away from me like a lot of other people.
Yes.
And you know, I've actually done a couple of documentaries for around the world in his place.
He's a great friend, great business, and we'll be seeing you there, I'm sure, soon. And Frank, I look forward. I'm going to be at your event on the 19th, raising money for charity, and I can't wait to have you back on the show. Okay?
Call up, ladies and
Thanks,
gentlemen,
Frank.
the Italian American Club to get your tickets.
You bet it. Frank Citro, thank you so much for
My
being
pleasure,
here.
guys.
Thanks, Frank.
It's been an honor. All right, we'll see you guys same time, same place tomorrow. Have a great day,
We
everybody.
out.
Blood sweating.